The dwarves of Cosmodon have played a significant role in the story since the earliest days of Warcraft, and our understanding of their origins has changed greatly over the years, and it's about to change a whole lot more with the War Within. Don't click away yet. There won't be any spoilers in this video, I promise. This is intended as a recap and refresher ahead of the expansion's launch. It's important to look back at what we know, which sometimes is just what we think we know. So let's dive right into the story and legacy of the Earthen. To understand where the Earthen came from, we will look back at the earliest history of the Titans' involvement on our world. In order to fight the Black Empire, the Titans created an army from the crust of Azeroth called the Titan Forged, but these weren't the Earthen and Vrykul we know today. These were giants of metal and stone, referred to in some records as the Aesir and Vanir, but these labels mean less than what we know them as today: Storm and Earth Giants. Some legends say that the Ancient Watchers originate from this time period as well, but we know for certain that these Titan Forged were led by the 9 Keepers, each empowered by one of the Titan Pantheon. Together they defeated the Black Empire, purging its malignant influence from the surface of the planet and banishing their servants, the Elemental Lords, to prison planes purpose-built to contain them. With the land calmed and the raging spirits sealed away, the work of the Titans could truly begin through their empowered Keepers. The Titans' goals of ordering and shaping worlds is decently well known, but the specifics of their approach get a little choppy. The oldest legends tell us of the sea giants and the Earthen created to shape the seas in deep places, but this was not the limit of the Titans' influence on Azeroth. After the construction of the Forge of Wills and Forge of Origination to reinforce Azeroth's world soul and shape her consciousness, a number of seed races were synthesized from the templates that had been used on worlds previously shaped and seeded with life by the Titans. This second generation was constructed from the Forge of Wills, channeling Azeroth's power to give life to inanimate compounds. These were the Titan Forged we are familiar with today, including the Vrykul, Mechanomes, and Earthen. The Earthen themselves were developed from what is called the Subterranean Being Matrix, which, as expected, is the template used to create a seed race to shape and carve out the mountains and deep places of a world. Normally, this matrix would be synthesized using local biomass, but the Keepers believed they could amplify the strength and resilience of the matrix by using portions of Azeroth's crust instead. The first version of the Matrix proved too complex and unstable, resulting in the first Trogs. The Keepers had succeeded in creating life using the Stones of Azeroth, but they were a malformed image of what the Keepers sought to create. The Trogs had the intended strength and resilience over the baseline Matrix, but lacked the cognitive processing power needed to fulfill the directives of the Titans. Still, the Keepers could not bear to destroy their creations, and instead established the Vault of Uldaman to seal them away. With some refinements and simplifications, the Earthen template was perfected. It was of high note that the Keepers had increased their strength and resilience without sacrificing cognitive processing power. These Earthen were spread over the surface of Azeroth, from Ulduar to what would become Stone Talon Mountains and beyond. At some point, by some stroke of luck, some Earthen and Stone Trogs slipped into the elemental plane of Earth as well. It was during this early age that Valinir was forged and given to the first Earthen king, Yrel Stoneheart, so that he could continue the task of creating more of his kin. But dark forces worked in the background, for you see, while the Keepers defeated the Black Empire, they could not kill the Old Gods, not without destroying all of Azeroth, a lesson that had been written in blood after Aman'Thul intervened and ripped the Old God Y'Sharj from the world. The remaining Old Gods had been sealed away in massive underground prisons. They were weakened and subdued, but they were far from harmless. It was after a mysterious signal from the stars that disturbed the Keepers that Yogg-Saron began to play upon Keeper Loken's jealousy and insecurities, using him to turn the other Keepers against their allies, if not outright subduing them into complacency. Through Loken's dark influence, Odin was sealed away in the Halls of Valor, forfeiting his title of Prime Designate, which was quickly taken up by the corrupted Keeper. With this new power, Loken rushed to hide all traces of his misdeeds, exiling most Titan Forged from Ulduar and sealing the city before the Titans or their messengers could learn of his betrayal. Peace held for some time, but this is a world of Warcraft. Some ambitious Titan Forged, the fire giants Vulcan and Ignis, decided that the lands around Ulduar were ripe for conquest. It is unknown if this was due to their nature or due to some influence from Yogg-Saron, but this began an age of death for the Earthen. This war would be known as the Winterscorn War, after the fire giants turned to the titular Vrykul clan, giving them enchanted armor to fight in and weapons that could shatter the other Titan Forged. They were also given saddles to enslave the local proto-dragons, and so armed, the Winterscorn Vrykul marched against the Earthen, hunting them into their burrows and slaughtering them. Some survivors were able to find the Keepers Tyr and Arcadis, who had escaped Loken's betrayal. The war was quickly ended as Tyr called upon the Dragon Aspects, who delivered a definitive end to the conflict by annihilating the Winterscorn and the vile constructs fielded by the Fire Giants. In the aftermath of the war, Tyr and Arcadis gathered up more displaced Titanforged before breaking into Ulduar and stealing the Discs of Norgannon, which bore the true history of Azeroth since the Titan's departure. Together with the Watcher Iron-Aya and the assembled Vrykul, Earthen, and Mechanomes, the Keepers fled south for safety, planning to analyze the discs to devise a plan to overthrow the Prime Designate. But in a panic, Loken sent ancient, evil beings in pursuit of them, necessitating a sacrifice that would define the land and the people who came to inhabit it long after the sacrifice itself was forgotten. But the most insidious part of Yogg-Saron's corruption was not his manipulation of Loken, or the disarmament of the other Keepers, or even the lumbering Kithraxi which Tyr sacrificed himself to stop, or anything that could be fought through strength of arms. Shortly after Loken began to fall under his influence, Yogg-Saron corrupted the Forge of Wills itself. We won't talk about the implications of Yogg-Saron corrupting a machine designed to shape the world's soul sentience in this video. But through this corruption, Yogg-Saron introduced the Curse of Flesh to the Titan Forged. They would be doomed to degenerate into soft, weak things, reviled by their kin who retained their bodies of metal and stone. But it wouldn't just be the Titan spawn created after the Forge was cursed, no. The curse would spread to any other Titan Forge that the Afflicted came into contact with. The Vrykul who followed Tyr south were already afflicted with the curse, and elected to remain and settle at the site of Tyr's sacrifice, while Arcadis, Iron-Aya, and the Earthen and Mechanomes continued south to Uldaman with the discs. Sometime after their arrival, the Earthen began to show signs of the curse, and both they and the Mechanomes elected to enter stasis in hopes that Arcadis could find a cure. But this was not to be. Arcadis and the Watchers entered stasis as well, and there they slept for millennia. The Mechanomes would be the first to awaken, now just gnomes without all those mecha components. The Earthen would later awaken and call themselves dwarves, with no memory of what they had once been. They traveled west to the mountains of Dun Morogh, where the gnomes had gone as well. Despite this new fleshy nature, they retained their affinity for the metal and stones of Azeroth, quickly mastering the art of digging, mining, and smithing, and they created sprawling mountain homes that arguably were just in line with their directives as Titan Forged. The story of the dwarves is worth a whole other video by itself, but they are the lens through which we see the story of their precursors. It is their pursuit of the past that leads us to find the Discs of Norgannon deep below Uldaman, where we speak to the lore keeper that tells us about their synthesis matrix. But the legacy of the Earthen and their creators stretches far beyond the dwarves. On Pandaria, we hear stories that the Mogu encountered Trogs, which is either a testament to the resilience of the Titan's design, or a condemnation of their attempts at sealing away their problems. Not that locking things away ever really worked out for them in the first place. The Mogu used the enchanted waters of the Vale of Eternal Blossoms to reshape Trogs into Grummels. Their strength was amplified, as well as their sense of smell, and their sense of direction and affinity for the Earth meant that they would make excellent scouts for the Empire. Wait, affinity for Earth? Sense of smell? It's already been theorized that kobolds descended from Trogs, and while we still don't have confirmation on that, it sounds an awful lot like the Niffin could have branched off from either Trogs or Grummels. But talking about branches and variations, we should first look at the latest piece of lore we've received about the Earthen, which foreshadowed the entire concept of the War Within. It's the observational report Earthen from the revamped Uldaman dungeon. Not everyone coming into War Within will be super familiar with this, and even some people who played Dragonflight might not know about it at all. It reads as follows. Fellow Watchers, when you were assigned to observe the state of our Titanforged subjects who, regretfully, fell under the influence of flesh, the Keepers could not have anticipated the effort necessary to follow them as they spread throughout the world. I shall do my best to ensure your perseverance is recognized, but for now, you are to continue your duties until a new directive is authorized. It is apparent from your reports that the degree of transformation in Titanforged subjects is significantly diverse. There is no group in which this variance is more easily observable than the Earthen. While some have succumbed entirely to the malady, such as the Earthen who emerged from Uldaman and called themselves dwarves, others remain resistant, whether in full or in part. One particularly notable variant can be found in the Earthen contingent dispatched to investigate the fissure detected in sector AR-938. For further details, search records related to geological anomalies. In the course of their duties, these Earthen began to manifest behaviors analogous to those which would one day be apparent in the self-styled dwarves, despite the two groups being separated by vast swaths of time and distance. In fact, based on their origin dates, I could identify no corollary at all between these two populations. Yet while their behaviors, language, and demeanor show many similarities, for example, assigning sector AR-938 the colloquial name Kaz Algar, physiologically the two groups remain distinct. Is this distinctiveness due to the exposure to the unique qualities of the anomaly, or is there another reason? We require more data before a conclusion can be reached. As ever, your aid in this analysis remains invaluable. Remember, we are the eyes of the Titans. Respectfully, Watcher Millennia. The timing of this report, being distinctly after the dwarves left Uldaman, does leave some questions about the Titans' remaining activity on Azeroth and who they might be reporting to. But knowing the general idea of the Earthen and War Within based on marketing material, we know what they mean about physiological differences between Kaz Algar Earthen and dwarves. That being, the denizens of Kaz Algar are still distinctly Earthen, which raises the question, is the dwarven culture rooted in the rocks of Azeroth used to create the Earthen? Or did it come from the seed race matrix they were created from? Could we find other dwarves on another Titan-shaped world that have similar cultures to what we see on Azeroth? I wasn't immediately inclined to draw parallels between some one-off dialogue in a classic dungeon and something from Zereth Mortis of all places, but aside from not mentioning the word matrix in relation to Titan-created races, it seems like the story of the Titans, their seed races, and the origins of the Earthen has largely remained consistent since those early days. Then looking at the materials used and creatures created in protoform synthesis, I've just spent the last couple days wondering how similar the inner workings of the Titan's machinery is to what we saw in Zereth Mortis. We create living beings using Genesis motes, a lattice, and either a glimmer used to create a soul, or some other mystical material to imbue with power. We can see analogies to what the Lorekeeper tells us the creators used in making the Earthen, and yet even in this deep well of speculation, there are still gripping uncertainties. Because it seems like Azeroth's essence plays the role of both the Genesis mote, aka the power source, as well as the glimmer that creates a soul, which frankly would make a lot of sense if world souls are literally just wells of souls that feed into other cosmic powers. But reining that wild train of thought in, I doubt we'll have answers to the nature of the Titan seed race program, but hopefully we will learn a little bit more about the Earthen's origins in the War Within. But I will be perfectly content at just getting a good look at what an idealized Titanforge culture looks like. For everything else, this story has been cooking since before Warcraft was an MMO, and I'm willing to wait a few more years to see it pay off properly. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you dropped a like. If you didn't enjoy it but you still made it this far in, leave a dislike and a hate comment. There's no such thing as bad engagement. Leading up to War Within, you can expect a mix of more lore content like this, as well as some profession guides, with a focus on the former once the expansion launches. If that interests you, consider subscribing. Either way, take it easy, have a good week, and I'll see you in the next video.